Welcome in, 7 o'clock in the p.m. on Thursday. It is March 14th, 2024. Hello and welcome in to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Show exclusively on the Better Sports Network. Thank you to everybody watching on socials tonight, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, so on and so forth. I am Eric Balkman. You follow me on the X at Eric Balkman. If you don't, I would invite you to. It's fun. It's a great place to be. And we want to welcome in my guest co-host tonight. He's been on this show before. You know him well, the founder and the proprietor of DynastyDepot.com, at the Dynasty Depot on X. He's at Credit Curd King on the X as well. Nelson Verbit. Nelson, welcome back to the show, man. Thanks for hanging out with me tonight.
My man, you invite, I show up. It's always a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure to have you too. Shout out to a producer, Matt Deutsch, tonight. As a reminder for anybody who's looking for action in fantasy football, which we're going to get into a lot tonight, Fantasy Pros Championship is live. MyFFPC.com is where to go. Draft for a $1 million grand prize in a $6 million plus prize pool. Just go to MyFFPC.com to register for that. And don't forget about the Never Too Early Best Ball tournaments we have going on there right now. These two tournaments are going to run all the way until the NFL draft. They'll conclude on April 25th. Best Ball slim rules, no kickers, no defenses, 20-round draft, 14-week regular season, 3 weeks of playoffs, and then we crown a champion after week 17. You can play with a 30 or 60-second clock, a 2-hour clock, or a 6-hour clock as well. MyFFPC.com is where to go. $125 gets you involved in a $25,000 grand prize. A $35 entry fee into the Superflex Never Too Early Best Ball Tournament will get you eligible for a $10,000 grand prize as well. That's MyFFPC.com. MyFFPC.com. Dom Gazzetti chiming in with what you had to say, Nelson. He gets the YouTube notification. He shows up. So I appreciate the dedication tonight. On the show, we're going to get into everything that's been going around the NFL. We had some breaking news right before we came on. We'll get into that as well. And then I want to talk about, in the second segment tonight, we're going to talk about all the running backs that have shifted spots, including Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones, DeAndre Swift, and so much more. And then to kick off the second hour, what about the other non-running backs that have shifted teams? Calvin Ridley, Diontae Johnson, Jerry Jeudy, Zach Ertz. We'll talk about Kirk Cousins, Russell Wilson, Gardner Minshew, and much more. And then the final segment before we let you go, and we'll be referencing this throughout the program tonight, but we want to get you well-versed, all you Dynasty players that are tuning in, on the Dynasty Depot, DynastyDepot.com. And if you're playing in the FFPC and Dynasty, we're going to tell you why you need to be a member over at Dynasty Depot as well. And if you're not a member there, if you're not playing the FFPC Dynasty, this is a perfect way to get involved too. So let's kick things off tonight. And Nelson, there was some breaking news that came on. We know Allen Lazard is available for trade. We know the Packers have agreed to terms with AJ Dillon. I don't know if there's necessarily a whole lot of fantasy analysis there. Corey Davis apparently coming out of retirement. This is the definition of wave 2 of free agency right now. Let's talk about Mike Williams to kick things off. Tom Pelissero from the NFL Network says that the Chargers have released Mike Williams. Now, I was doing another show, and I was talking to my co-host about this, and he was kind of depressed about this because he was of the opinion that, okay, well, now that they've cut him, he's going to move on, and he's going to have a lesser role somewhere, and he's never going to put up the numbers that he did before. Now, that may be true, and I know that Mike Williams is a little dinged up from time to time. He was never going to be the number one in Los Angeles, not as long as Keenan Allen was there, Nelson. Now Mike Williams has the opportunity to go somewhere where he could be maybe the 1B, maybe the 1A. What about Mike Williams as far as Dynasty goes right now? What are you doing with him while he remains a free agent?
Well, I mean, he's a sit-on in Dynasty. I mean, obviously the talent, speaks for itself, but can you count on him, Eric? I mean, when was the last time the man played a full season? Hey, right. when he's in it, listen, he played a nice Robin to Batman and Keenan Allen there when they were together and they were healthy. But he's not healthy. I mean, he's not a piece you can count on. In Dynasty, if you can get a 4th-round pick, 3rd-round pick, I guess depending on his landing spot, maybe early 3rd, but you can't count on him. He's hard to roster. He's hard to count on.
So Mike Williams, you are very bearish on him, which makes sense. And I think that let's flip it around. Let's say you don't have him. Would you be willing to part with a third-round pick to get Mike Williams on your squad right now, or is that too rich a price to pay?
Depending on the landing spot, right? Where's he going? Like to see the deal he's getting. Also, what kind of financial commitments possibly going his way, or is it prove it? $1.4 million, $2 million max contract. I throw him away.
So you're throwing away. I think a lot of people are at this point. He's a hold, like you said. We'll see where he ends up, but if he ends up in a good spot, there could be a pocket of fantasy goodness. I'm with you, Nelson. I don't think he stays healthy for 17 games for the rest of his career, but there could be some pockets of fantasy goodness there. Now, there was some information here that we found out from Adam Schefter that Harrison Bryant is no longer a Cleveland Brown. He is going to be a Las Vegas Raider. It's a 1-year deal worth up to $4 million. Now, this is a guy that had a pretty good college career, and now he is going to be playing next to Michael Mayer, who was the early round pick for the Las Vegas Raiders last year, and a guy that had 90 catches, almost 90 catches, just under 800 yards, 10 touchdowns, 4 years in Cleveland. Are you worried about the Harrison Bryant presence stunting the growth of Michael Mayer right now? I know that they can't just have Michael Mayer as the only tight end in Las Vegas, but how concerned are you if you're a Mayer owner with Harrison Bryant being added to the Raiders?
I'm not. But with that being said, I always liked the guy. I was on him early. I think he's got talent. It's never come through where he's become the man, so I can't see him becoming the man now. Now, I got to see more from Mayer also. I mean, limited what we saw from him last year, but, my guess is he has a semi-breakout kind of year. He's got pretty good pedigree there. But Harrison Bryant's probably just a second fiddle there. But somebody that if he did have to fill in and he ended up being in the one spot out there for some sort of reason, I think he's a pretty good player.
So regardless of the Bryant signing, whatever you are doing with Mayer, be it buy, sell, or hold, you haven't changed anything, right?
Doesn't change anything. I mean, or you could be America's guest, Mike Gesicki, who's America's guest. He goes to a different team every other week. It doesn't impact people. The good players, the high pedigree players, Mayer's going to get a shot.
Nelson Verbit from Dynasty Depot joining me tonight, talking about the dynasty implications of a lot of free agent signings, and one of them just happened tonight. Let's talk about the Bills here, Nelson. We know that Gabe Davis, and we'll get into Gabe Davis later on in the show, but he is not going to be a part of Buffalo's plans in 2024 to replace him or to at least help replace him. They've signed two different players now. Mack Hollins goes from Atlanta to Buffalo. It's a 1-year deal worth up to $3 million. Now, that happened yesterday. What happened probably within the last hour or so, the Bills have also signed, formerly of the Washington Commanders, Curtis Samuel, 3 years, $24 million. Now, there's a lot of different ways we can take it. Let's assume Diggs is on the team for 2024. It looks like Hollins and Samuel are going to be the guys that are going to fill in when Diggs is not catching passes, Cook is not catching passes, Kincaid is not catching passes. These two guys are. Do you like one better than the other? I mean, obviously the money would say that we should like Curtis Samuel a lot more. How do you look at the acquisitions of Hollins and Samuel to Buffalo?
Mack Hollins, just a guy, produces, cut his teeth in Philly, know him well. Always a solid player, but he's nobody you're hanging your hat on. And Samuel, listen, he's a good player. I mean, he's been a good player since he came in the league. That one contract, I believe, with Washington was a pretty big contract they gave him, and couldn't stay healthy. I mean, the best ability is what? It's availability, and we're talking about a lot of players that you can't count on. Now, did I have Curtis Samuel on a bunch of teams last year, and did I end up starting him, and did he produce? Yeah, the guy can play football. There's no doubt about it. The guy stays healthy, good things will happen, especially up there in Buffalo, but again, you're talking about a guy you can't count on. Dynasty-wise, you can't count on these guys. With FFPC and Dynasty, we'll be cutting on March 30th down to 16 people, roster spot down to 16 people, and there's no room to keep these guys. If he's sitting there in the third round, end of the third, fourth round, would I take a stab, grab Curtis Samuel? Probably. he's in a situation to succeed right now. Can he stay healthy?
91 targets last year for Samuel. He caught 62 of them, just over 600 yards, gotten in the end zone 4 times. And the better boss chiming in tonight, our producer, Matt Deutsch. Good news for Khalil Shakir truthers. He's now the second best receiver in Buffalo. Is that the way you see it as well? That the fact that the Bills did not break the bank to sign a second receiver after Gabe Davis left, they kind of went piecemeal with Hollins and Samuel, and they still have Shakir on their roster, Nelson.
Is that good enough?
Well,
okay, they haven't won anything. Okay, nothing. They got a situation with Diggs. They brought in nobody else. They brought in Curtis Samuel. Is Curtis Samuel going to get them over? They've done nothing. They've done nothing that tells me, that their window is kind of closed and a retooling financially of the situation. I don't know. Sure, if Samuel stays healthy for 17 games this year, he'll probably have a great year. But tell me when he's done.
So, and you bring up the good point. We'll get to Diggs in a second, but I think you bring up a good point. The Bills have been hemorrhaging assets, right? They've had to cut all these players to try to get under the cap. This might be more of a financial situation than anything else. And if it's a financial situation, besides Diggs, somebody has to catch passes. But it doesn't sound like you're a believer in Shakir, Samuel, or Mack Hollins, right? These guys are all afterthought.
Listen, you have the philosophy, and I'm not a Bills guy, okay? But in Buffalo, they have the philosophy. We have the best player in football. He can carry us with whoever Patrick Mahomes-esque. I don't care who you put out at wideout. I'm going to go get you a trophy. Okay, that's basically what they're saying now right now is go do it yourself right now while we, get our house in order here. It's not a great situation.
It's not a great situation, and I think that the Bills, quite frankly, I don't want to say their window's closed because they still have Josh Allen, but this reminds me sort of like what the Packers have done towards the end of the Aaron Rodgers era, where they were expecting, they invest in defense. They wouldn't sign any free agents. They try to build through the draft, but they would never give him any weapons. Like Devontae Adams was the last really good weapon that he had. You want to include Aaron Jones in that, I get. But this could be a situation in Buffalo this year.
Yeah, but there wasn't an investment in Aaron Jones. Him and Jamal Williams were drafted.
They were already there,
6th, 7th round. So that was luck or good scouting. One of the two. It was not an investment. It happened to work out.
It happened to work out. You're right. Yeah, it's not like they paid any kind of big time draft capital or money to get these guys and keep these guys on the team. What about the Stephon Diggs situation? Let's talk about this. Like, it almost seems to me that based on the Bills' free agency moves, they have no choice but to retain Diggs. They cannot afford to trade him. They're not going to get fair value for him. And I don't know what happened to him at the end of last season. If you have any light that you can shed on that, we'd appreciate that. But, to me, Diggs is still a guy that is going to put up big numbers this year because he has to. Not only is the opportunity in front of him, he's got a bunch of other guys that, quite frankly, have not done it consistently over the course of their NFL careers. This could be a big year for Diggs, Nelson.
It could, but football, it's rinse and repeat, right? You get older, you lose a quarter of a step as a wide receiver. There's problems, right? And mentally with him, when he doesn't get the ball, there's problems. He's not going anywhere. They right, like you said, they can't afford to do anything with him. So they're going to have to make him happy and hope he can produce for them because he's pretty much the offense, right?
He is, yeah.
I shouldn't say that. I fully expect Kincaid to have a huge year this year. I like him. I like him a lot, actually.
Did you like him?
I'm looking for.
Did you like him before Buffalo drafted him? If we just look at it from a talent aspect, Nelson.
I did because, and when they drafted him, I think any good organization's thinking 2, 3, 4 steps down the line. Hopefully, that's what they were thinking. Because is he a tight end or is he a very big wide receiver, right? What is he? So he's the one that you want that could have the monster year this year.
He could have a monster year. I mean, Diggs could have a big year. What about James Cook in this offense? How do you feel about him now that we know they've sort of filled in the cracks on the perimeter with Samuel and Hollins, but not necessarily getting a big splashy signing? Is this going to be another good year for Cook?
It is. And I saw him drop, I'm guessing 4-5 touchdowns. Something with his concentration level. I'm just guessing. I saw him play a lot. And yeah, I think if he fine tunes and he's sharp in his game, I think he's a talented back.
I like James Cook. I like him more after what I saw last year, and obviously his dynasty value has gone up. But I think more than ever this year, he's going to be counted on than he ever has in his career. So this could be we talk about the Bills maybe taking a step back, but fantasy-wise, Diggs could have a big year, Cook could have a big year, Kincaid could have a big year. I think that's interesting as we follow this.
When I said the window's closed, I feel like the window's closed, but they need to fix themselves financially. Yes. Okay, that team is a mess financially. So this year they're going to do that. But like you said, and it's so true, when you have one of the two best players in football as your quarterback, the window's not.
You're always in it. You're always in it. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Correct. Now, this team does not have one of the best quarterbacks in football. They do have one of the best receivers in football. That's the Minnesota Vikings. Now, Dianna Russini reported yesterday morning that the Vikings have, quote, no plans to trade Justin Jefferson. This was after there was a lot of speculation that Jefferson could be on the trade block because they lost Kirk Cousins to the Falcons. They're probably going to be drafting a quarterback early, and they have signed Sam Darnold to, I think it was like a $10 million 1-year deal, something like that. Yeah, okay. So now Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, who is the new, I shouldn't say the new, he's been there for a while, GM of the Vikings, said that Jefferson is not going to be traded. And Russini actually pointed out from The Athletic that he rejected an offer, Jefferson did, of more than $30 million per year. He is signed through this season, but after that, he's not under contract. Nelson, the Justin Jefferson thing is fascinating to me because this was a guy who was the number one receiver off the board, sometimes the 101 in a lot of drafts this past year when he had Cousins. Now there's no Cousins there. Now it's Sam Darnold. What do we do with him in Dynasty right now? Because I think there's a lot of moving pieces in Minnesota right now, and it could affect the plate tectonics of Justin Jefferson's value in Dynasty.
I guess Dynasty's a little weird, so it's what's your game plan, right? Is your game plan to win this year? He's probably not somebody you're taking in the top 5, okay? Because there's a lot of unknown there. But he is so good and so talented. He's still going to put up monster numbers if me, you, or Darnold's the quarterback. Okay, he's that good. So I mean, I would not shy away from taking him. I mean, you saw him at the end of the year. They had the Pep Boys, Manny, Mo, Jack, whoever was throwing the ball at the end, whoever the guy they started toward the end of the year on Monday Night Football. He couldn't get him the ball. Then they brought in Nick Mullins. He was able to get him the ball. Nick Mullins can get him the ball. Sam Darnold's going to get him the ball.
So not an indictment on Justin Jefferson. Like, as far as his dynasty value goes, it hasn't changed much for you?
Okay. No, because dynasty, you're talking long-term and building blocks. I can tell you I have moved him twice maybe in the last 3 weeks, and each time with the equivalent either players or picks of 3 number ones. And that seems to be the value. But that was pretty much the value a year ago also. It's 3 ones. You're talking, 105 this year or 1 next year, and a player equivalent to a first round, a Calvin Ridley, something like that. A late first round kind of guy going into this.
So as far as
a DeVonte Smith.
Right. As far as dynasty goes for you with Justin Jefferson, you're still willing to trade him, but you're only trading him for literally 100 cents on the dollar. You're not looking.
Absolutely no discount. Guy's too good. Sam Darnold stays the quarterback this year, and he stays healthy, and he plays good enough to make them a 500 team, a 7-10 team, something like that. he's still top 3 receiver.
We should talk about we should talk about Sam Darnold for Superflex Dynasty here real quick, because we obviously know your opinions on Jefferson. They have a first-round pick in Jordan Addison last year. They have a guy that they gave up some pretty good draft capital from TJ Hawkinson, who should be back at some point this season. Some are saying at the start of the season. I'm not willing to say that yet, but he should be back at some point in 2024. And they just signed Aaron Jones, who is a pass-catching threat out of the backfield. Maybe we should be bumping up Sam Darnold in our Superflex Dynasty rankings, Nelson.
Well, if he's going to go into the regular season as the quarterback, I mean, the draft's going to dictate a lot of that, right, of what happens in the draft. But you know, if they take a third back, something like that, and they're going with Darno, listen, he's got as much talent as plenty of the guys I've seen starting in this league, you know, the Jimmy G's and stuff like that. He's got a lot of weapons around him. He doesn't – there's a big thing. Let me explain this to you. When you are a backup quarterback, a lower-end starting quarterback, and you have to go win games, you can't do it. If you need to manage a game, he might be able to manage that game with some of the talent they have there. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I wouldn't be surprised if he has a decent year. Listen, one name for you, Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if Darno is more or less more talent than Baker Mayfield. Okay, he has weapons around him. He got them the weapons. He didn't try to win games. He was throwing 65% of his passes for completions. He was throwing for 2 touchdowns, maybe an interception, wasn't losing games, guided them to the playoffs, ran the hell out of the ball, dumped it off to Rachaad White 24/7. You know, there's something to be said for if you don't have to win the game. Josh Allen's got to go win games. Okay, he's got to go win the game. Darnold might not have to win games. I mean, got some talent out there to toss the ball to.
If you are and I don't think anybody's giving up a ton of assets right now to acquire Sam Darnold prior to the NFL draft, but the Vikings are picking 11th. We do know that there's 4 quarterbacks that are mentioned in the first round and maybe the top half of the first round. Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, and now JJ McCarthy is shooting up. I think the thing is, Nelson, I don't think Minnesota has the capital to get up to draft one of those top 3. And if they settle for JJ McCarthy as the 4th quarterback off the board, McCarthy's not going to be ready to play year 1. So Darnold might be a nice, potentially just 1-year super flex guy.
Listen, he's got a little pedigree, right, Darnold?
Yep.
Got a little experience. Sat in the meeting rooms with who I think is the best coordinator of offenses in Kyle Shanahan. And he's not going to surprise me if he has a decent year this year. Not going to surprise me at all.
Yeah. There's a lot of weapons there. There's a lot to like. And they have the draft to shore up that offensive line, too. So I think there is a lot of potential for Minnesota.
They're going to have a tough time getting McCarthy, by the way.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, you're picking 11th. Do you have enough draft capital to move up to get McCarthy? Because McCarthy's moving up big time.
Yeah, I don't. It's kind of a sweepstakes, right, for the middling teams to try to get out that need a quarterback to try to get them. There's a lot of business going on there. So.
Yeah, I mean Denver. You can make the case for the Raiders.
Listen, Eric. I watched Baker Mayfield last year. I watched Gardner Minshew last year. Okay, not lose games. Yeah. Get the ball to the playmakers. Lead your team to the playoffs. It's not an impossible ask that you're asking of Darno, and none of them had Jefferson. Aaron Jones is there. If he could stay, I love him. I mean, I love him. One of my favorite players in the league, not just as a person, just looks like to have a beer with the guy one day. So I don't think it's a horrible ask. It's not going to shock me at all if he has a decent.
We made it 25 minutes without talking about your Eagles, but I'm going to bring them up right now. Now, the headline here is that DeVante Parker has signed with Philly on a 1-year, but $4.7 million on the contract. So this is exciting. Former first-round pick, joining Philadelphia, joining Jalen Hurts, joining Saquon Barkley, who we'll talk about in a little bit. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. I mean, this is an electric offense. I know they won't have Kelsey at center next year, but the offensive line's still really good. What do you make of the Philly pass catchers? Is this a rising tide raises all ships here scenario where you like all these guys? There's obviously the A.J. Brown situation. I don't know if you have any insight into that about what was happening at the end of that season, last season. But
I have insight about everything.
Okay, all right.
I have insight about anything you ask me. I'm going to have insight.
So, well, let's talk about those Philadelphia pass catchers now that DeVante Parker joins the fold.
Okay, I think if you want to talk about that, you have to rewind to the quarterback. Okay, because it all starts with the quarterback. So what did I see last year? I saw a quarterback regress in progressions. Am I a pro football coach? No. Can I see a quarterback staring at one person and then tucking it and running and not going to the second guy? I can pick that up pretty good. I've seen a lot of ball. So the quarterback regressed. The quarterback, because, when you're from the hometown, you see it on DeAndre Swift dragging, wide open over the middle. No. The quarterback also has a home run mentality. He is not, hey, let's matriculate the ball down the field kind of guy, okay? Because A.J. Brown doesn't let him matriculate the ball down the field, okay? They want the ball thrown deep. They want big, explosive plays. But when they signed 26 the other day, that philosophy is going to change.
Yeah.
Okay, because that man's going to change. They didn't sign him to carry the ball 6 times, okay? They are going to get the ball to him, and that is going to open up the other guys more. Everybody, we see everything, right? So they were 32nd in the league in motion last year. These guys didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know what they were doing. They fell apart because they couldn't fix it. They didn't have the offensive minds or the experience to fix stuff last year. Hence, new coordinators, experienced coordinators. Okay, so they're going to continue. They got away from running the ball. They've been the best running team in the last, for the league in the last few years. Got away from running the ball. Let Hurts start putting it up 45, 50 times a game. No bueno. Okay, he needs to throw the ball 32, 33 times a game. That's enough. Okay, Barkley needs to and will handle a nice load there, and it's going to open up other things because you got to respect Barkley, and you got to respect him coming out of the backfield as a receiver because he's as good as there is there. NFL, right? Copycat league. What did they go out and do? Who's their arch nemesis? I'm not going to say Dallas because forget it. What did the Niners do? Went out and got the best running back, changed their whole offense. Brock Purdy leading them to championship games, Super Bowls, okay? Game manager guy because they got McCaffrey. Eagles went out and got Barkley because the Niners went out and got McCaffrey. In my opinion.
There's so much more of this Barkley, Jalen Hurts thing I want to unpack. I'm going to save that to the second segment. Before we get into that, I want to touch on a couple of tight end signings and not necessarily about the tight ends who signed because Gerald Everett, whatever. He goes from Los Angeles to the Bears, 2 years, $12 million. This is not necessarily a question on Gerald Everett, but Nelson Cole Kmet had a pretty good year last year. Does this eat into his potential? He's being drafted, and I know I want to have a dynasty spin on everything tonight, but Cole Kmet in the Never Too Early FFPC Best Ball Tournament is going off the board at tight end 14. Does that seem reasonable to you? I feel like I don't want to overestimate what Everett's impact is going to be because Kmet was good, but I think you and I could agree that Kmet does have some limitations as well.
He does. I like him.
I like him for what he is. I like him for what he is.
I have a lot of them. Everett, I thought was going to be a star with the Rams. I did. I think he's got a ton of talent. I think he's a backup tight end now. I think Kmet's he's solid. I got a question. Like I said, I was out all day and I just got in. When did Howell sign with moved to Seattle? That was another piece of breaking news. Happened because I'm looking. I'm like, I just got in my office. I've been out kitty stuffing all day today.
Yeah, it just happened. Like I don't know, a couple hours ago, I would imagine. The Washington Commanders have they've gotten out of the Sam Howell business. He is now a Seattle Seahawk. Now, the Commanders sent a fourth-round pick, a fifth-round pick, and Howell to the Seahawks in exchange for a third-round pick and a fifth-round pick this year. So it wasn't a huge price to pay. Howell, while he did lead the league in pass attempts last year, he also led the league in interceptions. He also led the league in sacks. Like, this is a guy that Washington seemed to be pretty eager to give up on. But I don't know. Is there some dynasty value here? Because I don't think Geno Smith's the long-term solution in Seattle. How do you see this going forward, not only for the quarterbacks, but for the skill position guys with the Seahawks, Nelson?
I wouldn't cut him. I don't know Geno Smith's contract. I know it was 3 years, $75 million. I think he's on the second year of it now. I don't know if they can get out of it, want to get out of it. I don't know enough of the situation. Just reading the headlines. I saw the guy put up 380 yards 2 times against Philly last year. He's got some talent, little bit of a gunslinger mentality. Can somebody rein him in and make him serviceable? I'm guessing the answer is yes.
I think the other thing that I always forget about is Sam Howell came out in, I don't know, whatever it was. Like, he wasn't a rookie last year, was he, Nelson? Was 2023 his rookie season, or was it 2022?
No, it was the second year.
Okay. So
he was hurt. He was
hurt. And the other thing I always remember too is this guy in the if he would have come out in the 2021 draft, was probably going to be a first-round pick. Like, that was the buzz around him. Now, he fell after a lackluster year, but now he goes to Seattle, where they don't really have a long-term solution, yet they have Metcalf. They have Smith and Jigba, and they just re-upped on Tyler Lockett for another couple years. Geno Smith, 3,600 passing yards, 20 touchdowns, 9 picks last season. I would imagine, and I'd have to look, I should know this, but I don't. I would imagine that the contract that he re-signed is a little bit more front-loaded. It's probably going to be easier or it's a little bit more back-loaded, I should say.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know the contract. It was 3 years, $75 million. Right. I know that. And this is the second year of it.
I think that I mean, if things break the right way, Sam Howell could be the starter in Seattle, because Seattle's not terrible. They're not a bad team. So it's not like they're going to be picking in the top 3 next year. And I know the next year's quarterback classes, from what I've read from a lot of the pundits out there, it's not great. And so Sam Howell could be a guy that is very, very interesting for Superflex Dynasty.
He performed pretty well in a bunch of games last year, Hal. So he's obviously got some talent. He's not I think part of the problem is he's not a great athlete. But he's got some talent in a quarterback-starved league where you see some crazy stuff going on. That's a pretty good pickup.
Very good pickup. And we'll see what happens going forward in Seattle. Obviously, new leadership there, too, with Pete Carroll hanging it up now, or kind of hanging it up. Cincinnati, switching it back to the tight ends, they've signed Mike Gesicki. You already mentioned this at the top of the show. Yes, exactly. Now, what I want to bring up here is there is a narrative out there that, like, Gesicki in Cincinnati, he's going to be the answer at tight end. Well, we thought Irv Smith was going to be the answer at tight end, and he wasn't. Like, I feel like there has been this not revolving door, but we kind of, there's a lot of people out there that expected production from the Cincinnati tight end, given the fact that Jamar Chase is on the outside here, T. Higgins is on the outside here, and now there should be all this underneath stuff for the tight end. Hasn't happened, and it doesn't sound like you think Gesicki is going to break that streak. He's just a guy here, right?
Yeah, he's just, I mean, actually, the kid that came on toward the end of last year, Tanner Hudson, actually did a pretty nice job there. Listen, every team has positions they don't value. Okay, they don't value a tight end there.
Right.
It's not in their plan. Now, something losing Mixon, okay, he's going to change some dynamics there. So, because I mean, he caught a lot of balls there, Mixon. Yeah, I don't know. I no, Gesicki is not anybody that
he's not a needle mover. And obviously with FFPC Dynasty, like, even with the tight end premium scoring, you're still talking about a guy that is a roster clogger at this point. And even a situation as good as Cincinnati is not going to make him good enough to make him desirable here.
Is he a pretty good 20th round best ball pick on a spec? Probably.
Yep. But it begins and ends there. At least for me. Like, I'm not excited about him with anything else. What I am excited about, Nelson, is to talk more with you about Saquon Barkley because we have not gotten in to the Jalen Hurts tush-push conversation. We'll get into that and much more. Derrick Henry is a Raven. Joe Mixon just re-upped with the Houston Texans on a 3-year, $27 million contract. We need to get into that. So when we come back, we were going to be talking about all these new running backs that are in different uniforms in 2024 than they were in 2023. Nelson Verbit from the Dynasty Depot. I'm Eric Balkman from the FFPC. Don't go anywhere. Stick around. We'll be right back after this.
Thank you.
If you're not playing Dynasty fantasy football right now, where we're still out there doing all sorts of trades and moves, everybody else that does like casual gamers that do redraft, they're done, you know, and they're just kind of speculating or like talking about the draft. We're still playing. Like if you play Dynasty, we play all year. I play over at FFPC. If you want to play there, use promo code COOP, C-O-O-P. We'll give you $25 when you deposit 35 or more at myffpc.com. And there's two ways to jump in over there. You can either do a startup, in which case you can get Dalton Kincaid way after guys like Sam Laporta and Trey McBride. Brock Bowers, I just saw that the rookie Brock Bowers, even before the draft, they're projecting him to go as like the tight end 2 in these startup drafts. Crazy, right? Like right after Laporta, which is nuts. Like you can get Kincaid, or if you don't want to do a startup, I think this is even more fun. You go out and take over an orphan team, right? So over at FFPC, they never close the leagues down. They just take the teams and if somebody has to leave or whatever, then you can buy in and take that team. So you can go find a team that has Kincaid and a bunch of players you like, and you keep those players, and then you look at all the other players you don't like, and you have the golden opportunity to trade them away. Like it's so much fun to take a team and be like, okay, you know what? Because if you do a startup, you love all the guys already. Like those are your babies. If you do an orphan team, then you can trade away all the guys you don't like, and that's even more fun, honestly. You have the golden, the green light there. So go to myffpc.com, use promo code COOP. They'll give you $25 when you deposit 35 or more, and you'll give you a leg up versus starting your own league. Now you got to chase people down for dues. You got to pay your own money. So go get set up over there.
Welcome back into the High Stakes Fantasy Football Show on the Better Sports Network tonight. Thank you to everybody who's watching in the FFPC socials, YouTube, YouTube, Facebook, and X. I am Eric Balkman from the FFPC. He is Nelson Verbit from the Dynasty Depot.
Got breaking news for
What's
you,
that?
buddy. Got some breaking news.
Let's do it. Breaking news. Brought to you by Nelson Verbit from Dynasty Depot. What do you have for us, my friend?
Well, it's only always going to be Philadelphia Eagle breaking news. I can tell you that.
Okay, all right.
Team is kind of void at linebacker, but the news I'm getting from my boys is Devin White to the Eagles, 1 year, $7.5 million.
I was wondering where this guy was going to land because I still think he's got a lot left in the tank. He moves to Tampa. I think it was a cut. Like it wasn't even a contract run out. I think Tampa cut him. And he's a free agent. Now he's going to be.
Yeah, per Adam. I know we have to quote people here. Per Adam Schefter.
Adam Schefter.
1 year, $7.5 million. So it's a good.
Howie Roseman does it again. How much fun is it cheering for a team with that dude as the GM?
Is there really a cap?
It's not a real thing. The salary cap is made up. It's a hoax. And
only in certain cities.
New Orleans is one of them. Denver, obviously, now.
Buffalo.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Philly does not have
Devin White. Good on Philly, man. And I don't want to turn this into a pro football talk show here because I want to keep it on fantasy. But, Nelson, I look at the Eagles and what they have done in free agency, and I look at the Niners and what they've lost in free agency. Man, Philly's going to be right up there as maybe the team to beat in the NFC in 2024.
It's not what Vegas says right now because people are questioning the quarterback right now. And we have not fixed the defense there that was pretty good at giving up 35 points a game. So there's still a lot of work to be done. Should be able to put a lot of points on the board this year. They are the third choice right now in the NFC, I believe.
Niners.
Dallas had Niners are favored. Dallas and Eagles are basically. I think looking at the division the other day, Dallas was minus 140 and Philly was 135. Something like that.
All right. All right.
Yeah, but needles are moving right now.
Needles are moving, and obviously Devin White is going to help move the needle for Philadelphia in the NFC East as he signs a 1-year deal worth up to $7.5 million. This reported by ESPN's Adam Schefter. So congratulations to Devin White and the Philadelphia Eagles on that new pairing. Speaking of the Eagles, let's talk more about Saquon Barkley here, Nelson. 3 years, just under $38 million. Now, this is $26 million guaranteed, which is huge for a running back, given how the NFL has been treating running backs here. The Eagles will have let me attack it from this angle first. The Eagles have always seemed to employ a backfield by committee, right? Where you have 1, 2, 3 guys, 2 or 3 guys usually. In
2012 was the last time they did with Shady McCoy.
Right, exactly. So it's been a while, and McCoy was like a big-time difference maker, so I get it. You were talking on this show last year when I had you on about Kenneth Gainwell, and now they have the bell cow. They have Saquon Barkley, and they don't have to rely on a committee if they don't want to anymore because Barkley has a lot left in the tank. He's not an old guy. He's heading into, I think he's 26 right now. So he goes in this electric offense. Like, sky's the limit for Barkley. Is he your number 2 running? Well, I shouldn't say number 2 running back for Dynasty. How high does he rank as far as running backs in Dynasty fantasy football right now?
He's hard to get right now. I can tell you that. He's very hard to buy. The market is kind of all over the place with him, but you're not seeing a lot of movement with him because you're kind of sitting on a gold mine. And what you said is correct. He's a bell cow, but you know why he's a bell cow in Philly? He's a bell cow because he can pass block.
Pass pro, yep.
Okay, and that's been the problem with the DeAndre Swift was loving Philly guy, great year. He was awful pass blocking. He had to come off the field for Kenneth Gainwell. But when you're coming off the field, you can't be a bell cow. Okay, you can't be there for the swing back. He couldn't block anybody. And Barkley's as good as there is. God knows he's had to pick up a few blitzes behind that New York line for the last few years. He's probably pretty good at it. And that's one of the reasons they went out and got him also.
How concerned are you from a fantasy standpoint, Nelson, about the tush push, right? So because Jalen Hurts gets all these short yardage first downs, short yardage touchdowns, does that affect Saquon Barkley's dynasty value at all for you? Or is the fact that this guy is a generational talent on a really, really good team, is that enough to say, hey, the tush push thing, man, it doesn't matter. Barkley's going to do numbers.
He's going to get numbers. He's just going to get numbers. He's going to. They will still tush push. But you also have to remember something. The captain of the tush push isn't on the team anymore. So is it as an effective tush push as we've seen over the years? We don't know that yet. Okay, probably going to be Cam Jurgens, who's a great player, great draft pick a few years ago. Played great at guard, and he was ready for this day. So I'd imagine they're not going to lose a whole lot there. I mean, it's tough to replace generational talent like Kelsey, but we got to see what that looks like first. Is it as effective?
The other thing, and Dom Guzzetti chiming in, it's not like Barkley won't ever get touchdowns unless they're all at the 1 yard line. So that's something to keep in mind too. Another thing to keep in mind, and I can't believe I haven't brought this up yet. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, DeVante Parker, whatever, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, Kellen Moore, Nelson, is the offensive coordinator there. And this guy likes to just slam on the gas pedal till it falls through the floor, too. I think we're underrating that. I mean, with Kellen Moore running things in Philadelphia, this could be a really electric offense. And this is not even considering all the talent that they have there.
So, interesting. So, when most people bring in an offensive coordinator, right? So, they're bringing in their offense. Nick Sirianni used the word mesh. We are going to mesh our offense with Kellen Moore's. I'm telling you, the DNA of this football team And when they won and they went to the Super Bowl, they blew that game, but they should have won the Super Bowl a couple years ago. The DNA for this team is run the football. Philadelphia, cold weather, we like running the football. They brought that man in to run the football. They might design different things for Barkley, but they're gonna run the football. There's not a doubt. Kellen Moore likes to throw it 60 times a game. We know Jalen Hurts cannot throw it 50 times a game. He's not good enough passing the football.
I think that's interesting, and I think it's something we'll be watching, and I think that this is going to inflate a lot of the draft values, regardless of Hurts' performance. It's going to inflate a lot of draft values on Philadelphia going forward. And obviously, you already mentioned, Nelson, hard to trade for Saquon Barkley in fantasy football. What about the newest Green Bay Packer running back, Josh Jacobs? The Packers ended up releasing Aaron Jones. They signed Josh Jacobs. More on Aaron Jones in a little bit. Josh Jacobs, 2022, led the NFL in rushing yardage. And 2023, not only was he hobbled, but he was really hamstrung by a bad offense where the OC got fired halfway through and didn't really have a quarterback. They had musical chairs at quarterback. Now he gets Jordan Love. Now he gets Matt LaFleur. Now he gets that good offensive line, and he's got a pretty good passing attack around him. Are you pretty bullish on Josh Jacobs? I think there's a lot to like here in Green Bay.
I'm not sure I would have cared where he went. I like the player. I think he's good. I think he's a stud. I think he wants the football. I think he plays with a lot of emotion, and he is going to be a top 5 back this year.
Ooh, top 5. Okay. Now,
he's going to be a top 5 back this year on that football team. Yeah.
So now, when you say that, does this strike you as a buy in Dynasty? Because to me, if he's going to be that good this year, again, like with Barkley, Jacobs is going to be tough to get.
Well, yeah. Well, what Jacobs is 25, 26. He came in so young. How old is he? 26, I think.
Jacobs will be 26 this year.
Right. He'll be 26 this year. So if you like Barkley, you're going to like Jacobs. Barkley's a couple years older, definitely has taken more of a pounding than him, had more injuries than Jacobs. I think he's a top 5 guy. I think, dynasty wise, I have seen him move a little bit, and he's going for pretty solid, 103, 104s I've seen. So the value's high on him. I think it's also a direct reflection of that good young football team they have up in Green Bay, that they know they like to run the ball. We've watched Aaron Jones put up monster year after year when healthy. A.J. Dillon carried the ball a lot when he was there. So, yeah, I think Jacobs, I love him. Love him there.
I do too, and I think it's kind of an underrated move. It's basically a 2-year deal for Green Bay. So there's going to be, I think, 2 really good years of Josh Jacobs in Green Bay. After that, we'll see. I don't know. It could happen. But I'm very excited to see what he's going to do in 2024 and 2025. And while I feign surprise to say that when you said he's going to be a top 5 running back this season, I definitely think that's in the cards, and it might be more likely that he is than he is not a top 5 running back in Green Bay this year. A guy who has been a top 5 running back over the course of his career in Tennessee is now going to be in a different city in 2024. Derrick Henry, King Henry, moves on to the Baltimore Ravens. He signs a deal there. Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, and now you have Derrick Henry, the banger in the backfield. Nelson, what do you do with Henry in Dynasty? Because we know he's 30 years old, and we know the end is coming sooner for him than maybe some of these other younger running backs. But how many of them have a better situation? Okay, let's talk about it.
So here's my question there. Everybody loves it, right? I mean, it just makes sense. Running team, Henry hasn't lost a step. Even if he does lose a step, he's still bigger than you anyway. My question is that a lot of the Ravens runs are run out of shotgun. A lot. Okay, with Lamar, RPO, bootlegging, doing whatever they do. Like, I don't see him running out of the shotgun a lot, Henry. He doesn't have that step. He's got to be an under center. So is Lamar going to go under center a lot more? than he usually does? That's kind of my question there.
So if it okay, so we have who was the guy they added? The Greg Roman was out, and then they added the new OC Todd Monken. So right. Monken, like in his history, has not, regardless of who he's had at running back, he doesn't really do that a whole lot. So is Henry actually a little bit overvalued for you right now? Because the perception is this is great running with Lamar Jackson. Look at that backfield. But maybe we need to look a little bit deeper and say, well, maybe this isn't great for Derrick Henry's fantasy value.
I don't know. I'm not as high as other people are on him. Now, I own a bunch of him. Thought, could be some dead wood. Definitely a hold now. Let's see what happens. I mean, if the guy scores 15 touchdowns today, he's 31 years old, it's a home run. But I got a feeling it's not going to be quite as good as people think. I think it's going to be more along a little better than Gus Edwards kind of numbers there. He'll probably score 8 or 9 touchdowns, but they're running backs, their quarterback.
Right.
So,
okay. And that, I mean, and the other thing to keep in mind too, it's not like people are falling all over.
Well, let me ask you. So you see Lamar in the shotgun, reverse pivot, handoff, fake the handoff, bootleg around. Are you going to have Derrick Henry 7 yards in the backfield with no running start? And is that going to be effective? I don't feel like it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And then okay, let's look at this too. You've probably seen the contract. I'm looking it up right now. The Derrick Henry contract with Baltimore. This wasn't like an immediate signing. Like they waited on him. The deal is worth up to $20 million. It's 2 years, $9 million guaranteed. Okay, well, his metrics have fallen. He's never caught more than 33 balls in a season. The offensive line is going to be really good, but I feel like the offensive line was all right in Tennessee last year. It wasn't great, but it was all right. Maybe Henry is being a little bit overvalued. In the Never Too Early tournament, he's being drafted as running back 13, a borderline top 12 running back right now, too.
Well, he's going to score some touchdowns, man. That's a good offense. He's going to score some touchdowns. He's going to score probably double-digit touchdowns. I don't know. It's the shotgun thing that have you seen Lamar under center a lot? I just don't see him being a shotgun runner.
Right.
Guy made a point in the chat room, changed Adrian Peterson when with the shotgun. Some guys, he doesn't have the quick step. He needs to get downhill. If you're getting handed the ball 7 yards in the backfield with no chance to get downhill, I don't know. So what do you write? They ran 21 personnel, 25%. I see that go up to Levi Moore, especially. Yeah. Right. I mean, they're going to have to make some changes with him.
And I mean, okay. I guess the thing is, are you really going to change your offense all that much to fit an aging running back when you have Jackson and Likely and Flowers and Andrews? Like, to me, yeah, they might make some, but it's not going to be these all-encompassing ones just to accommodate Henry.
No, I think he's going to be a good piece. I think he scores 8 to 10 touchdowns there. I think he runs for 780 yards, 800 yards, and he has a good year. And it'll probably fill the role. Again, like in Buffalo, the world is the quarterback, and the world runs around that quarterback. And, he's a nice auxiliary piece. Okay, he's nobody I'm looking to acquire.
Right, and I think that's the thing.
I
have him,
I'm happy I have him.
Okay, so you're happy you have him, but wouldn't you think that some other people are valuing him more than you are right now, and might be the time to get off of Derrick Henry in Dynasty?
Yeah, I don't think most people aren't as smart as me. I would agree with you.
Moving on to the Minnesota Vikings, who have signed the running back from their arch rival, or one of their arch rivals, their division rival, we'll just say. Aaron Jones now is a Minnesota Viking instead of a Green Bay Packer. Aaron Jones is a guy that, Nelson, I think you know this. I'm living in the shadows of Lambeau Field here in Northeast Wisconsin. I think a lot of Packers fans are upset to see him go, but they also understand the reality of the situation that Aaron Jones is going to turn 30 in December. He got hurt 3 times this past season. the hamstring in week 1. Then he had the leg injury later on in the season. And then he got hurt in that NFC divisional playoff against the Niners, which was another soft tissue injury. Now he goes to Minnesota. Sam Darnold, the quarterback. Yes, Jefferson. Yes, Hawkinson and Addison. There are some weapons there that should make things open up for Aaron Jones. The offensive line is not as good as what he had in Green Bay. But I think the biggest thing here for me, man, is this is a guy that struggled with injuries over the last couple of years. When he's right, he's really right. But last year, he was not right a whole lot. He came on at the end of the season, but I don't want to let that poison my mind to really fail to understand how unavailable he was in 2023. This is a guy who's missed a lot of time, a guy who, even before this season was dealing with soft tissue injuries, a guy that had struggled to stay on the field, even when he was being treated as the 1A instead of just the 1. I think about the A.J. Dillon pick. I think that was in 2020 when A.J. Dillon came aboard, and there was talk about Dillon being the new number 1 over Jones. And even when Dillon had a pretty good rookie year, and obviously the breaking news is that Dillon signed with the Packers, re-signed with the Packers, so he'll be back to go with Josh Jacobs this year. But you have a situation now with Minnesota where their lead running back, I mean, yeah, they have Ty Chandler here, Nelson, but they also have Aaron Jones, a guy who's dealt with a lot of injuries over the years. For Dynasty, I don't know, man. Like, this is a guy I want to be out on right now.
Was I gone for a long time?
Not for a long time. No, just for a little bit. You're good. But Aaron Jones and Dynasty is what we're talking about. I think the big
he's really good player.
He's really good, but he's been hurt so much, which is my concern.
Yes, he looked so good at the end of last year. I feel like the Packers just never let him go. You know what I mean? They just never cut him loose. He always came off the field too much. Is he going to last in Minnesota? I doubt it, man. But, he'll give them a bunch of good games early. He's nobody. People are buying him in Dynasty, believe it or not, for late ones right now because he's probably a league winner. You're getting when he could stay healthy. You're getting an actual RB1, especially on that team. You got to look out for a lot of the other pieces there. I like him. I'm not buying him. I have him. I'll sell him. I don't mind keeping him either and taking the gamble that he stays healthy. He might prove it and try to shove it up, Packerville a little this year. So let's see what happens.
And I think that's interesting too because there's a long history of the Vikings signing off these Packers cast-offs, and I think that Aaron Jones just fits the bill. I think Green Bay wanted him back. They were offering him. I mean, they're offering him a pretty big pay cut. He was due $11 million guaranteed with $1 million in incentives. They offered him $4 million guaranteed with $2 million in incentives. He ends up going to Minnesota to sign for $6 million guaranteed with $1 million in incentives. And it seems like he's jacked up to be there. We'll see what he's able to accomplish in Minnesota this year. But I think Aaron Jones is very interesting. Joe Mixon to the Texans in a trade with the Cincinnati Bengals, and then Mixon ends up re-upping 3 years, $27 million contract. Mixon in Houston is interesting because there's a lot of people falling all over themselves to acquire a lot of Dameon Pierce shares in Dynasty prior to the 2023 season. And now Joe Mixon is there. Devin Singletary's gone, obviously, but Joe Mixon is there to go with Dameon Pierce in a suddenly surging offense with C.J. Stroud, Tank Dell, Nico Collins, and maybe they add another receiver in the draft. You never know. Joe Mixon is going to be signed, I think, all the way now until his late 30s. Mixon in Dynasty, buy, sell, or hold right now, Nelson?
Okay, he's probably one of the hottest items coming and going right now. Okay, so I've seen it all. Am I buying? So I am not buying him because I think the price is high on him right now.
Mm-hmm.
Dictated by the high-powered offense down there. Listen, man, I just think it's crazy that 2 years ago, a year ago, nobody wants running backs. Nobody wants to pay running backs. Nobody. All of a sudden, we're talking about these 28, 29-year-old running backs that are really good players, are really relevant in high-profile situations all of a sudden. I mean, it's really interesting. I think Joe Mixon is in a home run spot. I mean, Devin Singletary is not Joe Mixon, and Joe Mixon, he can carry the load, man. I mean, he carries it, and he doesn't get injured. And I'd imagine he's going to be a monster down there for those guys.
Yeah, Mixon is another underrated guy. Like, I think that we're just conditioned once a running back reaches a certain age, we're like, okay, we're out on that guy. But at the same time, we have to understand that there is still fantasy goodness in these running backs for the second stage of their career, second contract, and Mixon is a perfect representation of that going forward too. My goodness, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Next guy.
Okay, let's get to the next guy because there's so many guys I want to get to. DeAndre Swift ends up going from your Eagles to the Chicago Bears. What do you think about Swift now going forward, competing with touches for not only Rashawn Johnson, Khalil Herbert? I'm not sure what the status is of D'Onta Foreman. I think Foreman is out of the picture.
Yeah, he's going to be going somewhere else.
So Swift with the Bears.
You're giving him $8 million. I'm pretty $8 million a year. And again, Philly homeboy, love him. Great guy. Thrilled he got paid. Good for him. Okay, but you're looking at a guy that cannot stay healthy, has never stayed healthy. You're looking at a guy that is not a 3-down back, cannot pass block. And you're giving him $8 million a year. That doesn't really make sense to me to be an early down back. Okay, you drafted Rashawn Johnson. Pretty good looking prospect. Herbert's always performed. It's not going to be a 3-headed monster, but it's going to be a 3-headed something there. Not high on him in fantasy.
I'm not either.
With a rookie quarterback, by the way.
And I still don't like the line there. I know it's getting better, but I still don't like the line in Chicago too. Devin Singletary, let's talk about him. 3 years, $16.5 million with the Giants. He is your Saquon Barkley replacement in New York, which I think is fascinating, interesting, and kind of scary. 898 yards last year, and now he gets $16.5 million. He is going to obviously face competition in New York as well. Singletary, is this a guy that you'd buy on the cheap, Nelson? Because I'm underwhelmed, but I also understand that there is a certain amount of volume that Singletary is going to get, and he can catch passes too.
100% buying. 100. If you got him as your in Dynasty as your fourth running back, you're in great shape.
Yeah.
Okay. He is going to catch. Listen, he's the dude you don't think anything of, that nobody thought was any good, but he's producing. And I got to be honest, last year he kind of passed the eyes test a little bit with me. And he's going to get a ton of touches there. I mean, the team's a mess. He's still going to get a ton of touches there. I'd imagine he's going to catch a ton of footballs next year. Really good out of the backfield. Yeah, you want this guy.
You do want him. You do want him.
They've invested in him. You want him.
Would you give up a late second round rookie pick for Singletary, or is that too rich?
In a second.
Oh, you would? Okay. All right.
In a second.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yes.
Moving on to Zack Moss, the guy who actually had a really good stint with the Colts last year for part of the 2023 season. 2 years, $8 million. He is now a Cincinnati Bengal. Now, $4.3 million is included in the first year. Jonathan Taylor went on the PUP list, and then starting in week 2, Zack Moss was the starter. 96 carries, 466 yards, and 4 scores in the next 5 games. You could make the case that it was actually a committee backfield until Taylor got ramped all the way up to where he needed to be, and Taylor and Zack Moss were actually splitting carries. Now, I think this is interesting because Chase Brown was a guy that a lot of people were excited about, obviously, as he came on at the end of last year. What does Zack Moss do to the Chase Brown situation? How do these guys coexist in that Cincinnati offense here? And Nelson, do you have a favorite from dynasty purposes between Moss and Chase Brown?
It's Chase Brown for me. I don't want any part of Moss, to be honest with you. I didn't think he was very good coming out of school. I didn't think he was any good in Buffalo. I think he had a good little stretch there. I'm selling him all day right now. I don't think so. I don't like him.
Okay. And I'm trying to think. So Zack Moss, God, I'm trying to find out how he's not a young man as far as running backs go.
Probably his fifth year.
Yeah, I mean, okay, hold on. I'm going to look this up here real quick. So Zack Moss is turns 27 this year. Okay. So I guess for running backs, okay, he's all right. He's all right. He'll turn 27 in December. But you're off of him. I'm not excited about him. I do like.
You didn't even know he was still in the league till he went through that stretch. Okay, now you're going to tell me that a playoff aspiration team like the Bengals or a championship team, that's their guy? I'm not buying it.
I think that I bought a ton of Chase Brown. I drafted a lot of Chase Brown last year later on because I knew the Mixon situation. I didn't necessarily see the Zack Moss signing coming, but it's not like they threw a Brinks truck at him. Like this, we know what they have in Moss, and I hope I know what they have in Chase Brown, or maybe I shouldn't know what they have in him because maybe the sky's the limit with Chase Brown too.
I'd be patient there. I have a hard time selling him. I think it could be something pretty good.
Nelson, Ian Rappaport reported earlier this week that the New England Patriots have signed Antonio Gibson 3 years, $11.25 million, 4 years with the Washington Commanders, just under 4,000 yards from scrimmage, 29 touchdowns. Back in 2021, he had 1,000 yards rushing and 7 touchdowns. He used to be a receiver. He's now a running back. And, I remember when people are tossing around the next Christian McCaffrey as the comp for Antonio Gibson. He obviously never hit it. Now he's competing with Rhamondre Stevenson. Is Gibson – I don't even view Gibson – I'll just tell you how I feel about him. I don't even view him as a 1B. I think he's a clear backup here. And I think Stevenson, to me, the shine has not worn off him at all. How do you feel about the Patriots running backs now?
I'm sure this is a family show, but what the hell are they doing up there? I mean – What on God's earth, when you're rebuilding the team, makes you want to give Kendrick Bourne 3 years, $33 million, and Gibson? What are they doing? You know what? Mm-hmm. Can we just move on? They are so irrelevant, and they are so dumb with what they're doing. They're irrelevant to me.
So they're
game next year, maybe.
Okay. And I don't think – I mean, is Ezekiel Elliott still under contract there? I mean, that's like another situation.
I don't think so. I think he is a free agent.
All right, so he's a free agent, so it's Gibson and Stevenson.
Wait, you help me. What are they doing? What are they doing with that Bourne contract? Like that – let's put it this way. Basically the same money the Eagles gave Barkley. You want to give that money to Kendrick Bourne or Saquon Barkley. Not that Barkley would go there, not that they needed him. But that's the equivalency of money you're talking about. What are you doing?
Last thing I want to get to before the break here, Gus Edwards has now signed with the Los Angeles Chargers. Edwards, who was a Baltimore Raven, now moving to Los Angeles. And Austin Eckler, we didn't talk about him. We could talk about him a little bit. Austin Eckler is now Washington Commander. Edwards will be once again playing for offensive coordinator Greg Roman, who coached him as Edwards' offensive coordinator in Baltimore. Jim Harbaugh is the head coach there. He obviously loves to run the ball. Edwards is not going to do much for you on third down, but he is going to get a lot of volume on first and second down. He will turn 30 years old in April, and there's not a whole lot of competition there. I think this is one of those situations, Nelson, that we watch to see what they do in the draft, because I can easily see Los Angeles investing in a running back in the second round or in the third round, and all of a sudden Gus Edwards doesn't look as good as he does right now as far as volume goes.
I feel like you can write down Gus Edwards' numbers from the last 2 seasons, and he's going to put up the same numbers there. He'll produce. He'll be able to spot start. He's going to score 5-6 touchdowns. He's going to run for 522 yards. He's going to catch 3 passes on the year. where he's viable. You're not buying him. He's somebody that could be cut on roster cut downs. Like he's a borderline guy. Also somebody you might want to like take a 4th round draft pick. And, if you need a 4th back and maybe stashing him if you're trying to win this year, because it'll probably help you sometime along the line.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about windows. It's all about pockets. This is a guy that has been in the league now for 5 years. 2022, he was dinged up. He only hit 400 rushing yards, but he has hit at least 700 rushing yards in every other season, including a career best 810 last year and 13 touchdowns. 13 touchdowns last year for Gus Edwards as well. So there is some fantasy value there, but if you have to cut him, we get it, especially in the FFPC. That is the running backs. Let's step out and take a quick break. When we come back, let's handle the pass catchers. Let's handle the quarterbacks. Calvin Ridley, Diontae Johnson, Gabe Davis, we touched on him. Darnell Mooney, we haven't talked about Darnell Mooney going to the Atlanta Falcons, and obviously the trade that happened with Rondale Moore going to the Falcons in exchange for Desmond Ridder. We'll get into that as well. Kirk Cousins is now a Falcon. A lot of Atlanta Falcon stuff coming up in the next segment, and I think it's an important thing to get the offense right in Dynasty and Redraft Fantasy Football if you want to win big in 2024. Nelson Verbit from the Dynasty Depot. I'm Eric Balkman from the FFPC. Don't go anywhere. You are watching the Better Sports Network.
Never Too Early Best Ball Tournament is already open right now over at FFPC. Drafts are available daily, 2-hour clock or 6-hour clock, or the sit and go 30-second clock if you really just want to bang out a draft. Those are scheduled in advance, so you can go get set up on that. Take a shot either $25,000 or $10,000 grand prize. That's in the Never Too Early Best Ball contest. They got some big prizes over there, man, and you can play high stakes games over there too. So you can hit this QR code that's right in front of my face, or go to myffpc.com. Use promo code COOP, COOP. They'll give you $25 off when you deposit $35 or more. So go get set up right now. We're doing, we already do our dynasty, we do our redrafts over there, we do our high stakes stuff, but we do the playoff contest, we do it all. So I'm going to get in the best ball too. It's never, for me, whatever you got, whatever contest you got, I'm going to play, I'm going to win. That's it. So go over to myffpc.com, use promo code COOP, and you can win as well.
We are rolling through a Thursday night here, 8:13 in the p.m. Eastern time. Welcome into the High Stakes Fantasy Football Show presented by the FFPC. I'm Eric Balkman from the Fantasy Football Players Championship. He's Nelson Verbit from the Dynasty Depot. Remember to check out the Dynasty Depot as well. Before we get in to all the receivers and everything that you need to know about these new pass catchers in new places, I do want to tell everybody about the Fantasy Alarm All-Pro subscription. You can get it right now, unlock content for all sports, including annual draft guides. You'll get one-on-one expert access in the Discord, analyze matchups and trends in your league when you sync up your league with the Fantasy Alarm All-Pro subscription. Integrated with Fanjections is the lineup generator. There's daily rankings, weekly rankings. The value vault position coaches are all there. The waiver wire ownership percentages, projections, stats, and tools and more. Build better lineups guaranteed with the Fantasy Alarm All-Pro subscription. Get access to everything Fantasy Alarm offers all year. Just use promo code LOCK at fantasyalarm.com/lock, LOCK, fantasyalarm.com/lock. So let's talk about Calvin Ridley here, Nelson. This kind of caught me off guard. I did not see the Titans in the sweepstakes here of getting Calvin Ridley, but that's exactly what went down. And my God, did they pay a pretty penny to get him. 4 years, $92 million. By the way, this happened yesterday. This did not happen on the first day of free agency. This happened yesterday. $50 million guaranteed. And Ridley is now in the top 10 for average annual value at the with this new contract. Now, DeAndre Hopkins is still on the team, obviously. Treylon Burks still on the team, obviously. All three of these guys can play in the slot. They can all play on the outside as well. Will Levis is I would assume, the starting quarterback this year. Tony Pollard is now a Tennessee Titan as well. This offense all of a sudden looks a lot more potent than it did in 2023. Brian Callahan is the new head coach there, and then the offensive coordinator is Nick Holtz. They're going to have a lot of toys to play with here on this offense. But I'm still flabbergasted about the amount of money that Calvin Ridley got from the Titans. But maybe I shouldn't be. As far as Dynasty goes, maybe I should be taking and understanding, like, okay, this is how the Titans value Ridley. Maybe I should be valuing them the same way.
Can fall a couple ways. Can fall under the "what the hell are you doing" category for sure. But I think what it tells me, reading between the tea leaves, is they think Levis is their guy, and they're going to get help for their guy and give him the best chance to succeed early in his career with some veteran wideouts. Man, that number doesn't make any sense.
No,
I mean, it doesn't. I don't know why or what. I mean, he wanted to go back to Jacksonville, but for $90 million, you're packing up the car and I'm leaving. It doesn't matter. But I think, see, the Levis thing is tough read because I don't have a read for. I don't know what I'm going to see. I saw some flashes last year. Saw a tough guy last year. Maybe they're saying, this guy is the guy. And I think they bought him a pretty good security blanket is what they did.
What's the fallout here? Like, what do we do for Dynasty? I mean, like, is Ridley a buy? Is Hopkins a sell now that they've invested so much into Ridley and Hopkins isn't getting any younger? I mean, I think Treylon Burks takes a clear backseat to both of these guys.
You cannot get a third-round pick for D-Hop anywhere. Cannot get a third-round pick. So maybe something else. Maybe people know things that I don't know. Is he even going to be there? Is he going to be cut? I'm not really sure. Something tells me he's not going to be there if they were paying that kind of money to Ridley. Hopkins is the kind of guy that's going to sit quietly while somebody's making $70 more million a year than he is. Kind of telling me that.
I think that's a situation we'll be watching, especially with the addition of Pollard too. I mean, they paid up for Pollard and Ridley, so we'll see what happens with Hopkins going forward.
Changing of the guard there, it's all different. Here's the other thing. It's kind of an interesting team because they're not going to pound Pollard 35 times in the line. That's not going to work. So sounds like they're going to chuck it. I think they trust the quarterback a little there. He's a sneaky buy. Even in Superflex, you can get him, not at a bad price. Probably taking a spec on that guy this year in some places.
Yeah, I think that's wise advice. I think we should all be doing that going forward. And I always keep in mind Pollard can catch passes as well, which is going to pay off for Levis. We had a trade. I mean, we're talking a lot of signings here, but what about this trade between Pittsburgh and Carolina? And Adam Schefter from ESPN reported that the Steelers have sent Diontae Johnson to the Carolina Panthers in exchange for Dante Jackson, who's a cornerback, and a late-round pick swap. No surprise that Johnson gets out of Pittsburgh. I mean, it didn't seem like he was very happy there. He's due a $3 million roster bonus tomorrow. The Panthers will be on the hook to pay that. The contract that Diontae Johnson signed with the Steelers expires at the end of this season as well. Last year, 51 catches, 717 yards. He, as far as preparation goes, he was one of the best in the NFL. But his yards per reception dropped to 10.3 in 2022 and no touchdowns after a 2021 season when he had 100-plus catches and 1,000-plus receiving yards. George Pickens is obviously there now, and it seemed like Pickens was, the transition was sort of starting last year of who the number one receiver is going to be. Now he goes to Carolina. Nelson, to me, he's like the de facto number one. There's a lot to like there. I like him better than Thielen. I like him better than Mingo. I mean, like, he's the guy there, but he's catching passes from Bryce Young. Could be problematic. How do you view Diontae Johnson right now as far as if you own him or don't own him in dynasty leagues?
I'm not buying him and I'm not selling him. I think we can all agree that for the first 10 weeks, Adam Thielen was the league winner last year. Okay.
Absolutely.
We can also agree that his yards per catch is going to be under 10 yards a catch this year. The guy can't throw the ball downfield. Listen, it's hard to tell because that guy, one man's opinion, that guy's not making it. That quarterback's not making it there. He doesn't look the part. He doesn't look like a pro quarterback. I'm not sure what they thought. 170-pound kid that's not even fast. So that's a problem. But I mean, Diontae Johnson, great route runner. He's a really good player. I'm not sure what they're doing there. They're trying to get the kid some help. Makes sense. He's going to be a security blanket there. Not buying him, not selling him. Wouldn't surprise me if he had a decent year there. But there's not going to be any yardage there. The kid doesn't even throw it downfield.
Right.
So
I think that with no matter where Diontae Johnson was going to be, I was never going to view him as a chunk yardage specialist. He is a tactician. He is an expert in separation. He will get you the pass, or he will get you the reception. But after that, I don't expect much. And I definitely, ever since 2022, I don't expect much.
I mean, he's really good. I mean, if he would have got traded to Buffalo, what are you saying right now?
Yeah,
right?
Very excited.
So you're telling me in Buffalo, wow, everybody be really excited. Just not exciting where he got shipped to the abyss, man.
That's it. That's what it is. Because I would imagine the Buffalo offense is going to be on the field a lot more in 2024 than the Carolina Panthers offense. You and I kind of share the same view on Bryce Young, but we also share the same view on Josh Allen as well, which, oh my God, now all I can think about is Diontae Johnson being a Buffalo Bill this coming year, but he is going to be a Carolina Panthers
player, man. He's a good player. He's
a very good player. Very good player. Speaking of trades, let's get into this trade that Denver and Cleveland agreed to. Again, Adam Schefter reporting that the Broncos have sent Jerry Jeudy to the Cleveland Browns in exchange for 5th and 6th round picks in this year's draft, which is coming up in about 6 weeks or so. There was a lot of smoke that Jeudy has been on the trading block for quite a while. Potentially Denver turning down 3rd and 5th round selections in exchange for Jeudy, who was a 1st round pick by them. In fact, he was the 15th overall pick in 2020. 44. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. 44 career games for the Denver Broncos, 211 catches, just over 3,000 yards, and 11 touchdowns. He's averaging 14.5 yards per reception, which is good. I mean, that's a good number. Now he gets to play on the other side of the field of Amari Cooper with David Njoku in there as well. Jeudy is in the final year of his deal. He's looking to get paid. The trade will help alleviate Denver's cap situation, but not by much. I mean, they're paying $50 million for Russell Wilson this year. This only saves them $13 million. And I think Marvin Mims is an interesting guy for Dynasty. We'll talk about him in a second. Before we get to Mims, Jeudy on the same team as Cooper, Deshaun Watson throwing passes to him. Watson wasn't great last year. But is Jeudy the tonic that this offense needs? How do you view Cleveland now, specifically with Jerry Jeudy in tow?
He's done nothing. He's done nothing. He doesn't stay healthy. He's done nothing. Probably one of the top 5 biggest disappointments in the last 4 years coming into the league. So if he's done nothing, maybe he's just not good.
Yeah.
I don't listen. Cleveland always going to run the ball there. Got a quarterback that's questionable at best there. Got Amari Cooper, who is the man there. You got Njoku's turned into the man 1A there. You're trying to run the ball. He's going to be? He's going to be a Jameson Williams, deep threat, big long routes. Some game, the 3 for 86 days are going to be his big day. 3. He's not going to be a volume guy there. Just not going to be.
Yeah, and it's tough for him to be with Cooper and Njoku there, especially the way that they came on last year. And I understand, it was Joe Flacco who obviously made them big time difference makers at the end of the season. We'll see what happens with Watson. Flip it to Marvin Mims. We don't exactly know who the quarterback's going to be in Denver yet, Nelson. But with Marvin Mims now assuming the number 2 role opposite Courtland Sutton, I know how high people were on him in Dynasty last year. Yeah. I feel like I would still struggle to buy him at what people are selling him for.
Yeah, another tough eval, right? Like who's throwing the ball there? So I don't know. these receivers, man, it's just a direct reflection of who the quarterback is. If you don't have a quarterback, it doesn't matter. You're going to see that with Diontae Johnson this year. Okay. With people like that, you go to the abyss and these guys can't throw it to you, and they can't read defenses, and they're late. All their throws are late, with you out of your cut. It doesn't matter. So I don't know what's going to happen there. I'd imagine you're going to have to sit there with him. Not going to be anybody you can count on, but a talented player. So, who knows who lands there eventually.
I think he's one of those guys you can't really cash in on right now, selling or buying. We have to find out who the quarterback is, to your point. So
not a bad buy. If you're not contending right now and you want to buy him for 3.5, 3.6, not a bad buy.
Yeah, no, I would agree at that price point for
Good
sure.
Stat.
Let's talk about Gabe Davis, who is no longer in Buffalo. He is now a member of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, what's interesting about this is Christian Kirk is obviously there. Now, there's no more Calvin Ridley, but Evan Engram is still there. And I've heard talks that Jacksonville could be adding more to the receiver room after signing Gabe Davis to a 3-year, $39 million contract. I keep, Gabe Davis, the legend of him is going to be that playoff game, Buffalo, Kansas City, 8 catches, 200 yards, 4 touchdowns. It's what we always think of. We as dynasty owners always looking at the ceiling. Oh, my goodness, look what he's capable of doing. But I really wonder what he is going to do with maybe this is my Christian Kirk fandom. I love Christian Kirk. I think he's fantastic. They're paying him a ton of money.
I love him. Yeah. Absolutely love him. He's so good. Great.
And that's the thing, too. It's just like Gabe Davis is fine, but I don't necessarily think he's going to be all that much more than he was in Buffalo this past year, Nelson.
Similar big arm quarterbacks, stuff like that. I already have the number one receiver, similar situation. Could play out a little better. I mean, you had those Gabe Davis disappear 5 games with no catch games. I don't think you'll see that in Jacksonville. Probably going to have a decent year.
I don't know. What's your definition of decent? Like, I don't know like Engram caught like 100 passes last year. You know what I mean? Like it's tough for me to see like Gabe Davis just fitting in. New offense, new OC, new quarterback, new head coach.
You catch 70 balls there?
Okay, is 70 decent? Then yeah, I could see that. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm on board with that.
70, 800 yards and 5 touchdowns. It's kind of a decent year.
Yeah, no, that's decent. You're right. That is decent.
And listen, a lot's going to depend on, are they trailing a lot of games? The defense going to play better this year if they're trailing? Listen, I think he's a capable player. Yeah. Okay, I don't like him. I'm not buying him. I don't. It's nobody I'm looking to pick up, but I think the guy can play. He can play.
Let's move on and talk about Darnell Mooney. This gets into the Falcons portion of the program here. As Darnell Mooney is no longer a Chicago Bear, he is with that new look offense and new look team, quite frankly, in Atlanta with the new head coach, new offensive coordinator, new quarterback in Kirk Cousins we'll get to in a little bit. Ian Rappaport from the NFL Network is saying Atlanta has signed him to a 3-year, $39 million deal, $26 million guaranteed. Now, apparently the Chiefs were trying to get Darnell Mooney aboard, but Mooney ends up signing with a Falcons offense that has Cousins, London, Pitts, and Bijan Robinson. He should be the number 2 there. This is a guy that I think a lot of people were out on based on what happened in Chicago the last couple of years. But Nelson, I think I'm in on this guy. I'm very excited to see what he's going to do in Atlanta with Kirk Cousins.
I don't know, man. We think alike. Listen, he coming from Chicago, it's so hard to evaluate these guys. You see the flashes. He had the one good year. It's just so hard to evaluate with the awful quarterback play. Now you got a throwing machine and Cousins there. It looked like he flashed. He had the 1 year, and probably a guy you want right now. It's it's just it's awful evaluating the guys coming from Chicago, Carolina. Who knows? But 39 million tells me they think they know.
I think they do know. And I think that Mooney is a guy that has dealt with some injuries in the past, and that's depressing his dynasty value a little bit more too. So now he gets to this situation. And I guess I should ask you this. We'll talk about Kirk Cousins now. What's your belief in how his Achilles is healing? Is he going to be ready to go? Is he going to be doing everything that he was doing in Minnesota?
I'm guessing the answer is yes. I'm guessing. It's a pretty big contract. I mean, Kirk Cousins, the best businessman in the history of the NFL. Another 180 every 4 years. Somebody gives him 180. It's a good gig if you can get it. I'm guessing he is healthy, and he's just the pro's pro, right? He does what he does. So he's going to continue to do it. He's got some weapons there. Probably pretty exciting for him.
Very exciting for him. And we talked about Minnesota a little bit, but Kirk Cousins to the Falcons. I love Mooney because of this. London and is this what it takes to unlock Pitts? Because Pitts is a polarizing guy every single year in the FFPC. Buy or sell Pitts now, knowing that his price just went up with Cousins.
The most traded big name right now. Sold him yesterday because I own a lot of him. So sold him yesterday for Dallas Goedert, Standard League. Dallas Goedert 104-204.
Wow, that's a nice little haul for Pitts.
But people will pay. Some people are paying up for him. Listen, again, awful quarterback. How good? Awful coach. The worst coach in the 2 top 10 draft picks. You don't use them. I mean, the guy should be fired. The guy shouldn't even. He should be banned from the NFL. Arthur Smith. People like that shouldn't be allowed in the league. I don't know. They're going to cut this guy loose. I guess. We haven't seen anything.
No, we haven't. We absolutely have not. No.
I saw more in Florida, and they threw the ball 12 times a game. It's I don't know.
What about
yeah?
What about the other Falcon too that was in the news? Desmond Ridder goes to Arizona in a trade. Rondale Moore headed to Atlanta. Do you have any feelings about Rondale Moore? Because he's probably going to be the number 3 there behind Mooney, the 5th pass catcher, right? Behind Robinson, Pitts, London, and Mooney. There's not a lot to like about Rondale Moore. I mean, it's exciting for him to be in that offense, but as far as fantasy production goes, Nelson, there's not a ton there, is there?
No, until there is, right? until he's in right? No, until he's in the right spot and he turns into Curtis Samuel in his big year. No, I'm all out on him, but it wouldn't surprise me if one of these years he puts up a big year.
We will see if he does that. You just mentioned Arthur Smith. He's the new OC in Pittsburgh, and the new quarterback in Pittsburgh is Russell Wilson, who is now going to be throwing to guys like Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, George Pickens, Calvin Austin, I believe, is still there, Pat Freiermuth. Your thoughts on Russell Wilson trying to rejuvenate his career? Or maybe it's not a rejuvenation. Like, his stats weren't all that bad last year in Denver. Now he takes his talents to Pittsburgh, but it's with Arthur Smith, Nelson.
I don't know. Like, if I'm Pittsburgh, it was such a no-brainer, right? Bringing him in for a year. It's such a no-brainer. Obviously, there's things wrong there. I mean, he's going to get away with his braggadocious, high-living self with Mike Tomlin. I doubt it. I don't think that's flying in Pittsburgh. I don't know. His career is definitely, on the back end. He's not going to be one of those guys that's going to be playing into his 40s. His next stop is backup quarterback, or this is probably about it if he can't perform. Got some weapons there. Got what I think is the best coach in football, year after year there. Some stability. Got Arthur Smith that just makes no sense to me, as he should not be allowed in the league. Mm-hmm. And But yeah, I mean, no brainer there. Listen, they run the ball, Pittsburgh. It doesn't matter who Ben Roethlisberger threw it 19 times a game. So Russell Wilson's going back to his old Pete Carroll days. He's not cooking. It's not happening. Nobody cooks in Pittsburgh. So good game manager, solid guy, still run the football. Yeah. It's a great signing. It's a free starting quarterback.
Yeah, it basically is. You're paying nothing for him, no question. Dave Nowitzki is in the YouTube chat right now. Nelson, shifting our focus back to Cincinnati, but staying in the AFC North. Joe Burrow, is he going to be 100% going into this season? How confident are you in that?
Don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know. I don't know. What are people saying? I don't know. It's not a question that I can answer. I don't know. I'm guessing the answer is yes, but Cousins, these guys. I don't know. It's too early to know all this stuff, right? It's too early.
I think that it was a bizarre injury too, right? To Burrow with the sleeve and everything, and I honestly didn't think it was going to affect him as much as it did, but it did. And now we have to kind of figure out what's going to go on with him, not only for Burrow's sake, but for Chase, for Higgins. For now, I don't think they move him, but Higgins obviously, and then maybe Brock Bowers, as per Mar99 in the YouTube chat right now. He wants to know who's going to land Brock Bowers. Nelson, do you feel like it's the Colts, the Bengals, the Dolphins? Who do you think ends up with Brock Bowers in the NFL draft?
Guy feels like a Colt to me. You know what I'm saying? Just you kind of feel that whole thing, with Richardson, big time security blanket. He feels like that kind of move to me.
The Dallas Clark days are back again in Indianapolis. Although Bowers is a lot more athletic than Clark ever was.
Yeah, Dallas Clark, it was a hell of a player there.
Hell of a player for sure. Let's get to the I want to talk about Dynasty Depot. Before we get to it, I do want to bring up Gardner Minshew here real quick. Tom Pelissero reporting earlier this week that Minshew has signed a contract with the Las Vegas Raiders worth up to $25 million, $15 million guaranteed. He's going to start for the Raiders, I would imagine, unless he completely falls on his face and they have to turn over to Aiden O'Connell. I think this is good news for Davante Adams. I think it's good news for Michael Mayer. We have a competent quarterback in Las Vegas, and Zamir White, as of right now, is going to be the lead running back there. I'm bullish on the pass catchers with Las Vegas. Say what you will about Minshew, but he always seems to make his guys relevant, Nelson.
I'm not going to say anything bad about Minshew. He makes everybody relevant with every team. Is he going to lead you to the Super Bowl? No. He led a Colts team to playoffs last year. I mean, that was nobody saw that coming. Not a ton of talent there. Taylor out most of the year, banged up. And no, I think Davante Adams is a great guy to move right now.
Ooh.
Okay. You're able to move right now because people know he's going to probably have a pretty big year this year. It's going to be your last chance to move him for first round capital. I've moved a bunch of him.
So what, give me a typical deal. Like, what are you taking back in exchange?
I got 109 for him yesterday.
Straight up.
I was thrilled.
Okay.
Yeah. I was thrilled.
So,
my teams, I'm not moving him. You got to move him to a contender, somebody picking toward the back half, and you'll get a bite.
There's no chance per Mar 99, no chance on Minshew as trade bait to get Fields. That's not going to happen, right?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that whole situation, right? There was a big rumor Fields saying, and we talked about that for a second. Big rumor that he was coming to Philly as the backup. Which made no sense. But what do you make of that?
Well,
I don't have a job.
Here's what is really frustrating for me. If I played FFPC Dynasty, I know what happens with cut downs. Are you in a single quarterback league? Are you going to keep a guy who might be backing up somebody who's more likely to back up somebody in real life this year on your team?
Eric, 3 weeks ago, he's your starting quarterback on all your fantasy teams.
Exactly. Right.
Now, 3 weeks later, you're cutting him. If you thought he was good enough to be your starting quarterback on a lousy Chicago offense, how are you just cutting him now? Like,
and here's the reason why. Because the NFL has deemed him, as of right now, they have deemed him not startable. He is not a starting quarterback. Otherwise, a trade would have been done.
Nobody wants.
Yeah.
I don't know. You see some of the trash that people throw out there every year, and this guy's just done.
Yeah, that's
remember,
and he's on his rookie deal too.
Right, rookie deal. I think it's $25 million this year, though. I mean, if you remember 4 months ago, what's Chicago going to do? Are they going to be able to get 3 first-round picks for Fields and draft Williams? They can't get a 5 and a 6, man.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's I'm hearing 5 and 6s out there. I don't.
You would like?
Is there something else to this, man? Is there something else behind the story with him?
It's possible. And
weird.
And I think that that price tag, it's confounding because do you want to pay a guy $25 million to be a backup and then risk losing him for nothing? That's great. That's a great deal if you're going to pay him as your starter. That's fantastic if you're only paying him $25 million. However, you would need the right situation. You need the right weapons, the right line, the right coaches, the right coordinator to make it work. And as we moved on further into free agency, those situations are drying up, and the Bears are going to have to make a decision.
It's a crazy story, man. It's really a crazy story. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not cutting him anywhere. Can't cut him in Superflex, obviously.
Right.
And if he's my backup quarterback, one of my 2 quarterbacks, I don't think I cut him. I mean, he is a pretty damn good fantasy quarterback. Not such a great regular quarterback. But, like, how does he not go play in Denver? Or I'm sure it still might shake out. Listen, before roster cuts, something's going to happen. Could go past roster cuts. You can't get rid of him.
It'd be really tough to do so. Really tough to do so, especially in an FFPC, even in an FFPC league where you have shallow rosters. Speaking of FFPC dynasty leagues, Nelson, we've gone so much, throughout the show without talking about the Dynasty Depot. There's a lot of people who are wondering all about the Dynasty Depot. I want to give you the floor. I know you've told our viewers before, but we definitely have some new viewers checking it out tonight. How did you get the idea for the Dynasty Depot?
I was drunk and needed something to do on a March night.
Where all great ideas always come from.
Out of a bottle of wine. So, no, it is true. But, I mean, the idea came from trying to create something to do in the off season. And that's what I did. Knowing I also have 120 dynasty teams and like to keep drafting, I'm like, man, it would be really nice to get rid of some. And that's why I created the market for it. The company, it's our 4th season. It's going a little nutty. This year, it's just picked up unbelievable traction. It's funny. Today, we sold like 26 teams today. A team sold, it was a $5,000 team, but a team sold for $15,000 today, which is, yesterday, we had a $2,500 team that sold for $10,500. And you can go on dynastydepot.com, even as not a member, click on last 25 sales, recent sales. You can see the numbers. You can pull up the rosters and see, wow, that guy really just paid that money for that. But it's been crazy, Eric. Like, we've seen, here's a good stat for you. There's been 22 $77 teams that have sold for over $700.
Jesus. God.
So if you want to try to do some math there on the $300 winning first place, you need to be good for a long time there, brother.
Yes, you do. Yeah.
But on the flip side, great story. So I get an email from a guy. Mm-hmm. And I tell the people how it works. So I get an email from the guy, and he flipped $10 into $72,000. He bought a team on my site, won the league, won our leaderboard thing, so he won a main event, placed high in the main event, and then placed high in the Football League Challenge. He won $72,000 off a $10. Yeah, which made me feel, oh my God, that's a story of what we did it for. But right. Yeah, man. So DynastyDepot.com, we sell FFPC Dynasty teams. It works as an auction. People set a reserve, people put buy it now. There's 260 some teams up there right now. We've sold in the first 3 months close to 1,000. So for all of you people out there that are like, where's this guy getting this team from? It's people buying and selling teams off my site. We're getting ready to get into a very exciting time. So everybody thinks they're good at drafting, right? So I'll draft 50, 60 teams this year. I won't play 40 of them. I'll draft them. I'll put them up for sale on my site and flip them like a stock. There's a lot of day trading on the teams. You might see a team on my site 2, 3, 4 times over the course of the season. Guy will make a subtle change, extra draft pick. You see it go for $400 more here. So there's just a lot of ins and outs, man. So the site's just become very successful. I don't do anything. I just turn on the button and people do it. I flip teams probably more than anybody, but that's what it was created for. Really, really something to do in the off season, and it's become a huge success. And thanks to you, I know you've done a great job helping me promote it. We are offering tonight, which is for all our FFPC people. You can go to DynastyDepot.com. You do need a membership, so you can click rookie membership. You can type in the promo code FREE. You all should be able to remember what free is. And now you have a rookie membership for the next 30 days to check out the site. If you want to stay on it, don't stay on it, whatever you want to do. But you can try us out for free. Just use the promo code FREE. Click rookie membership. Come on board, flip through teams, bid on them, whatever.
I think that's what's always so compelling about Dynasty Depot, because you can actually – we had people asking us about this I don't know, probably like 7-8 years ago. Like, well, could I sell my team for more than the entry fee? And we're always like, well, no, you can't. But at Dynasty Depot, you obviously can, because people are drafting these teams.
We get that question, and I surf the chat rooms and stalk Alex and you all. I see what people are saying, and they're like, well, why would I list it on Dynasty Depot? They collect a fee because you can list it for more. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's the thing. You can list it for less. You can do whatever you want to do. There's plenty of $1 teams on my site right now. Literally $77 teams for $1. Because you know what they do? They buy them over on your site for $77, and then they come flip them over on my site is what happens. It's all day. But, people always jockey and making money. But the deals you can get on my site are probably more exciting than the monsters. You can go buy yourself whatever you want to buy on my site. The price, it's out there. You want to tell your wife, look, I won 7 leagues. You're going to pay up for it. People pay up. It is not uncommon to see people paying 6, 7, 8x off the entry fee. It's very common.
I think, and you have seen teams like, especially when startup season starts, people will draft the startup and they'll just put it right on Dynasty Depot right away, just to see what the reaction is to it, and maybe they can get maybe they can flip a profit for it right away if they had a strong draft.
Right. Well, let's put it this way: you draft a $250 team, and I come up to you and say, "I'll pay you third place money right now. You're gone." So that's what it is. So buy you $250, you sell it for $500. You just made third place money. You didn't play it down. People trade up. Now I got money for a $500 team, whatever, $100 teams. That's what it is. It's something to do. People are constantly buying and selling teams on the site, and there's a lot of different ways to make money. There's money to be had out there. Listen, you own these dynasty teams. They're stocks, right? Mm-hmm. It's a stock. They're going to go up, down, this. So you see it on my site. You'll see a team that was 2-11, 2-12 this year, but they have 101, 102, 104, 106, and it's a $250 team. It might sell for $900. Then you see the other team, the guy that won the league that has 112, you're going to have a hard time getting $250 for it.
Yeah.
So it's different strokes for different folks, but there's a lot of different options out there. And if you like Dynasty, there's a hell of a lot of FFPC players that are on that site constantly flipping teams. It's something to do, man. You're not playing a league right now. It's pretty cool getting involved in an auction. Something to do.
That was my next question. Obviously, everybody knows what it's like to sell a team on there, what it's like to buy a team on there. But the bidding aspect in the auctions, can you kind of tell the viewers a little bit about what that process is like?
As a buyer or a seller?
Well, explain it as a buyer
Okay, so as a buyer, it's just like eBay. It has a buy it now. The owner must set a buy it now and a reserve. So you don't know his reserve. You do know his buy it now. When it hits reserve, the team locks, and then it goes to the highest bidder. What we put in this year, which is pretty cool, say it doesn't hit reserve. You understand what reserve is, right?
Yep.
It's got to mean a minimum. Yep. The minimum price the owner will accept for that team. So now we put in this year, and it's been awesome. We got some people like, oh, man, my reserve was 100 and only got to 90. I lost it. I would have taken 90. Mm-hmm. So now the owner, when the auction's over, has the option to offer the team to the highest bidder, even though it didn't hit reserve. So now that guy is able to offer it for $90. If the $90 guy doesn't take it, he can offer it to the next guy for $80. So it lets him still try to move the team if that's what he's doing, if he finds a price acceptable enough to.
How long do these auctions usually last?
They are 72 hours.
72 hours. Okay.
Now,
so everything's over that.
That 90% of the good teams, the high price stuff goes for buy it now, 20, just like your orphan page. It's there for 20 minutes, right?
Right.
The good stuff, right? So, the crazy good teams, if the guy prices it well, it goes for buy it now really, really quick. But listen, nobody knows anybody's situation. Nobody knows the owners of these teams. Nobody knows if he's getting out, he's done with fantasy football. Nobody knows what price he's going to accept. It's a $500 team. I saw a really good $500 team go for $30 the other day. I don't know why. It's none of my business why. Guy wanted his deposit back. His wife's done. You're done. Who knows? But, you bid, and sometimes you end up with pretty good teams for cheap prices.
As far as if I was an FFPC player, I wanted to sell my team on dynastydepot.com. I would have a membership with FFPC, and then I get a membership with Dynasty Depot. And then basically I choose the reserve, I post the team, and then I basically watch the bids roll in, right?
That's really what happens. Correct. So you got to go to dynastydepot.com. You got to click rookie membership. Mm-hmm. You got to put in the promo code free, and you're in business to buy and sell. The one thing I will tell you, which I should say, is when you sign up and you're on, you have to hit the sync button. The sync button will bring all of your teams from FFPC into your Dynasty Depot account, and then you can click the team that you want to put for sale.
Okay, so let's do this. You mentioned before about the guy who turned $10 into what, 72 grand?
72 grand.
Okay, so what talk a little bit about, or what can you say about, I should say, the advantages of being a Dynasty Depot member? Because there are other prizes that you're awarding, right?
We discontinued the leaderboard. We've given away 4 main event seats for the last few years. Every year we had our own internal contest, but we got successful. There's no need to do that anymore.
Right, yeah, like there's just so much action going on there at this point.
We were buying action. But the point of the matter is, if you go on to the site and you click filter 1250, there could be 1250 team for 10,000. You might see one there for $20 right now. Okay. Do you want to rebuild it? Well, you're getting a free year because you're only paying $20 for the team.
Right.
And the guy, Bill Hollywood, how have you never heard of this? Okay.
DynastyDepot.com.
I send out promo codes to all of you people in all the leagues. If you're a Dynasty player, Bill Hollywood, I'm embarrassed that you haven't heard of us yet. It hurts. It hurts me, Bill.
Recently, and I remember this happened, I want to say last fall, but you guys had an in-season announcement. Like Dynasty Depot was always like an off-season thing, as you said. That's what it came from. It's something to do with the off-season.
We always close the end of the season, and then the good graces of the power to be of the FFPC allowed us to open in season. So we are going to be open in season again. So there was some interesting stuff there, right? Because the records are posted, the points are posted. So you can spec as a seller and a buyer. You're specking, well, maybe I'm not going to win the league, or hey, I want to buy the win. You know, this team's going to win. It brought some different aspects into it. Not as hot a selling as is now, but there were some big deals. People buying into some good positioning going into the playoffs. We cut it off going into the playoffs. That's your business at that point.
Right. And I totally get that. Dynasty Depot has been awesome for the last 4 years. It continues to get more awesome. It's evolving. Obviously, the in-season thing. You talked about all the action going on there with the buying, the bidding, the selling, the dominating. Can you tell us a little bit about what the future of Dynasty Depot looks like? Are we going to continue down this path? Are there more things that you guys are working on right now?
There's some ideas that we have. I don't know. Okay. There's 2 or 3 things that could happen with us. And I feel like that's an Alex thing. Maybe we should bring Alex on and ask that question. There's some things that could happen, but organically, like it's really cool because we've grown organically with the help of you, okay, and your email blasts, and like now, you know, when you guys open, you know, when people are ready for this. This has become part of FFPC's world. Okay, you have your season, you have your playoffs, you get paid. Dynasty Depot's opening next week. You know, which is a pretty cool thing that we've carved out a niche. You know, in the FFPC's world with their good graces. So, you know, it's fun, man. It's fun if you play Dynasty. You know, you got to be on the site. You got to be on it.
The last thing, and Bill Hollywood brings this up here, I should play Dynasty because I think football all year, but I only in the big dog and a few big ones here in town. And this brings me to my final question, Nelson. Did you start off as a redraft fantasy football player and then you became a Dynasty player? Because I know you play an absolute ton of Dynasty right now. What was the big clinch for you of like, okay, I got to be playing Dynasty all the time because this is so much fun?
Because it's all year round. Who doesn't want to be a general manager? I just gave you 2 hours of my general managership in my opinions. So, you know, I think I know it all, right? You know, so, and that's what you do. And you make your own destiny in these dynasties. You're making trades, you're drafting picks, you're doing your research, you know, and it's the greatest game in fantasy football. It's all year round, man.
And for anybody who wants to play Dynasty Fantasy Football year-round and wants to get involved with Dynasty Depot, DynastyDepot.com, promo code FREE, FREE, and then they'll get that free rookie membership, right?
Yeah, Matt can throw my email up there. It's Nelson@DynastyDepot.com. Please feel free to email me anytime. You know, I can walk you through it. I can talk to you about it. I can answer questions. But Nelson@DynastyDepot.com, and I'm here for whoever needs me. I'm very accessible.
Nelson@DynastyDepot.com. Check out the Depot, DynastyDepot.com. If you're playing FFPC Dynasty, this is something that you definitely want to check out. Nelson, I really appreciate you coming aboard tonight. I learned so much. Glad I got to pick your brain about free agency. And most of all, I'm very happy that our viewers got a chance to hear so much more about Dynasty Depot, and mostly Bill Hollywood being opened up. He had his mind opened up to DynastyDepot.com tonight. So it's been fantastic.
I'm looking forward to Bill Hollywood's email. I expect I should have it in the next 15 to 20 minutes. We can start discussing stuff.
I would imagine so. Nelson, be good. Enjoy the NFL draft, the rest of free agency. We'll talk with you again real soon.
I love you, man. Thanks to everything you guys do for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you. That's Nelson Verbit, ladies and gentlemen, from DynastyDepot.com. Want to thank him. Want to thank our producer, Matt Deutsch. We are back at 7 p.m. next Thursday night. Don't forget about the 2024 Fantasy Pros Championship Live. $1 million grand prize. We got a draft popping off at 10 o'clock Eastern time tonight, so about an hour to get that draft filled. $6 million prize pool in that. Of course, myffpc.com is also your home for the Never Too Early Best Ball Tournament. $125 in the Classic Best Ball Tournament will get you eligible for a $25,000 grand prize. $35 entry fee in the Superflex Best Ball Tournament. You're eligible for a $10,000 grand prize. Those drafts are popping off 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 1 minute, 30 seconds, 60 second, 2 hour and 6 hour draft clocks right now. So you can check that out at myffpc.com. Plenty of Dynasty action there. And of course, for all your Dynasty action, if you're already an FFPC Dynasty player, DynastyDepot.com is where you want to go. For Nelson Verbit and Matt Deutsch, I am Eric Balkman. This has been the High Stakes Fantasy Football Show on the Better Sports Network. The best of BSN is up next. Thanks for watching, everybody. Talk with you next week.